Population at an average age of 42.5 years. That's a decade earlier than it strikes people of European origin. The one other reason for this is hypertension. People are living such fast-paced lives in India, and there's such competition to survive, to succeed, and to outdo your neighbor, that hypertension is also directly contributing to this.
I could not believe this headline on BBC News. How are sexually confused insects helping small farmers? Okay, confusing, I know, but there's more to it than that. There's a British startup called Exosect that has come up with a technology that is helping Indian farmers. Basically, what we've discovered, there was a 2008 study of farmers in Punjab, and a lot of them were spraying their crops very, very often with insecticides, doing it daily instead of just a couple times a year. I mean, way more than they should be. And those farmers are now more susceptible to cancer. And that's what the study revealed. So clearly, we're worried about this. Here's the kind of eureka moment for this company called Exosect. They found a way of using charged wax powder soaked in female pheromones, which is then attached to male insects. And the male insects then go after other male insects. Do you see what I'm saying? So obviously we're not going to have the proliferation of these bugs, these insects, especially the ones that are, infecting the rice and all of the crops in India, if the males are going after the males. And this is significant progress. I know, it sounds funny, right? The resulting drop in insect population means that farms have to use about 25 units of pesticides in a hectare, as opposed to up to 1,000 units using traditional means. That's how much less insecticide you can use. So, it may be funny, male bugs chasing other male bugs, but it's working.
You know, I can't help but think, so you mess with nature this way, and then what happens? I mean, you have bee populations that are just declining.
This is true.
Right, and you haven't figured out why. And how do you know that the thing that you intended for one species of insect doesn't somehow become a problem in some other species of insect that you need vitally, like bees?
You're right. I'm joking about it, but you're absolutely right that there may be, again, unintended consequences for a technology like this. The immediate gain for the farmer is being able to use less of these harmful chemicals on their plants, on their crops. But we don't know how the rest of the ecosystem is then affected by this big change.
Well, in an equally amazing headline, how's this? New Russian ban on chicken confounds producers. Apparently, Russia has decided to ban frozen chicken, which you would think is a staple. I mean, think about how much chicken we consume here in the United States in frozen form, and yet frozen chicken in Russia represents roughly 50% of the market there. Both imports as well as their locally, domestically produced chicken.
Is it health? Or what is it?
Well, this has to do with the use of chlorine as a disinfectant. Okay. Basically, the idea that chlorine deteriorates chicken when it's frozen and then, again, defrosted. And that deterioration is somehow not good for you, and therefore frozen chicken is deemed as bad, and therefore they've decided to ban it. But I just don't understand how you can make such a black and white decision about something that feeds so many millions of people across the world.
Is it not a question of how the chicken is processed, packaged, and then sold?
I don't know that they're actually paying attention to all that. I think someone somewhere decided to make a rash call on this, and they did. Consequently, Russia's major poultry producers have appealed to the government not to impose the ban, saying it would hurt their business and raise prices for consumers. But that's also true for countries outside of Russia that are trying to import their chickens into Russia. So I don't know. I guess, Russia is an interesting place, and they can make interesting rules. This one I thought was interesting.
This time of year, there are a lot of young people looking at colleges, getting ready to put their applications together, and it's kind of a nerve-wracking time. A lot of our colleges and universities in the meantime are talking about just how competitive they have become because, well, here UCLA says they had 57,670 applications, and it proclaimed itself the most popular campus in the nation because they got more applicants than anybody else. So these colleges and universities are saying that applications are up, they can only admit so many people, so the percentage of people being admitted is quite small, making applicants, of course, kind of nervous about how they might get in. There's more to it than that. Clearly, there are more people applying for college and university admission. So that's why applications are up. people are applying to more places. So each individual aspiring college student is applying to a whole wide variety of colleges and universities, many more than I think the 3 to 7 I was advised to apply to when I was a young person. And basically what's going on is that the criteria for admission have become very unclear to the applicants. So instead of applying to 3, I'll apply to like 15 or 20 online applications, making it much easier to do so. And the admissions officers are not so much looking for the perfect student as they are for the perfect class. It's not the same thing. They want a certain combination of people. So colleges are looking for more minority students, more out-of-state students, and more students from overseas. They want to get a particular balance that is not just about how your individual application may raise up next to others, but how you might fit into this larger group that they're trying to create, a class of students on the campus. I think it makes it really hard for applicants. That's all I kept thinking. It wasn't this hard when I was applying.
You know what I'm thinking? I'm thinking it's a business. Like anything else, it's a business. And what do businesses do? They go out and brand themselves. They create artificial demand sometimes where there might not be enough demand to make yourself seem like a highly desirable product. So here you are as a student, and you're applying to 30 places now instead of 3 places. Consequently, you're generating that much more revenue for these colleges because these college applications are expensive.
And when you talk to some of these admissions people, they're like, you know what? It just means we reject more people. What it means is there are a lot of people who actually aren't qualified and don't meet our minimum standards who apply, and we just have to reject them. We're still stuck trying to figure out among those top applicants who to admit. It's just that we're sending out more rejection letters.
Well, you know, as long as people find a way to get to college, I sometimes think it's the community colleges in the future that are really going to serve that bracket of students the best versus these brand name schools. Folks, I read a really great article I wanted to share with you. This is out of the New York Times. You know, we have done so many stories on this show about microlending and how successful this is in third world countries or up-and-coming countries. Certainly India has benefited from this idea of microlending. But a fundamental problem in India is still the fact that you have workers who really are in disparate parts of the country. Let's say they're in the same family, and they have trouble sending money to each other because how do you do it? There's no well-connected system of banks to really make this possible. Except that most of these villagers, and even now at this point your low-class worker, has a cell phone. Right? And by having that cell phone, you actually have quite a bit of empowerment under you. So it was a matter of time before someone in India came up with a novel concept. This is EKO India Financial Services. Founders Abhishek Sinha and his brother Abhinav began with a small insight. And that is that low-wage Indian migrant workers from poorer states like Bihar had no place to put their savings and no secure way